Put my shades on. Oh, we're gonna start a show now.
Yeah, there we go. How's that? Okay, now we can do this.
Yeah.
Welcome to Talking Heads, everyone. Episode 387. Your once weekly live show for latest in beer and tech news. I'm Jeff.
I'm John.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining on this Wednesday night or in podcast over on Spotify or wherever your favorite podcasts are found. If you've never seen the show before, we talk beer, we talk tech, we talk games, pop culture, entertainment, sometimes some Star Trek. All super chats are read in the air so long as they will not permanently demonetize the channel. We do drink alcohol on the show, and if we're drinking along with us, alcoholic or not, let us know in the chat, and we'll give some early shoutouts as we go along. Last but not least, if you'd like to take part in the super secret chat or the even more super secret after party, think about joining the Patreon. Link is down in the video description. As a bonus, you'll get exclusive access to my Discord server, where you can chat with myself, John, Rhett, Steve, all the hosts from Talking Heads, and join the awesome community that hangs out over there.
Nice.
And I realized I was reaching for one of my fidgets, and it's that dang squeaky USB key again. So I'm literally going to yeet that, so I don't do that.
Yeah. That's okay. All right.
Welcome to the show. John, how you doing tonight?
Oh, it's a busy time. Always. We got one guy on the team is on vacation for the next week, and we're moving phone systems to or finishing up. Our office is the last office for VoIP phones.
I've done many of an install of those.
Yeah, so we've been over the past couple of months programming them all and testing them and going through like, how do we work this and how do we do this?
Are you doing a full conversion from analog from a POT system, or are you okay? Yep. Did you, as someone who's done this transition many times for many different organizations, I have to ask like a whole bunch of questions because now I'm curious. Like, because I've had to do full transitions where they're like, no, we love all of our systems and all of our extensions exactly the way they were. And Sally, who's been here for 42 years, has everyone's extensions memorized. And if she has to change, she's probably going to retire, and we can't afford to do this without her. So I know none of it makes sense. And they're and they're all different buildings, but we need to make Sally happy. And so we need you to build the new system exactly as the old system worked. Oh, and by the way, we still need faxes.
Yeah. Yes. That one rings so true. That one rings so true. No, luckily for the extension one, we don't have anyone like that. Everyone's getting brand new extensions. We're going from a 3-digit to a 4-digit extension. So it's like everyone, we don't care. Everyone's getting a new. Yeah. So and then luckily with this, we're syncing up all the outside offices too. So every office has it's technically a 3-digit extension. It's, the first digit is one of the 10 offices.
Is site location, right? Exactly.
Site location, and so everyone is synced up. But the thing was we still need a fax machine.
Yeah.
And then we needed a lot more switches too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, suddenly when it's not just, Wi-Fi to a laptop, now it's a PoE drop plus a printer plus all of a sudden you triple your switch infrastructure just like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I think we got the switches ordered. Oh, and also we're going from I think it's a 2 gig connection to a 10 gig connection.
Okay, nice.
So, and I think and then our backup's a 1 gig, if I remember correctly. Or we're keeping the 2. I don't remember, but I know we're going to a 10 gig. And Comcast is coming in, and they're supposed to be helping out with it, and they are not very helpful at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Have I done any Comcast switchovers? I'm trying to think. Yeah, I did have a couple that ended up being Comcast for the main provider. Did a lot of them from some site independent or local independent VoIP systems. Those always worked out pretty well. Lots of good hints coming in from the chat as well. Make sure you schedule your DIDs to be ported in time for the cutover. So make sure your lines are actually going to be forwarded properly.
Probably won't be.
Yeah. As much as you want to schedule it, there's always going to be just a little bit of downtime.
And I don't understand this. They have it scheduled, and it's for Wednesday during the middle of the week.
Yep.
And I was like, why? Let's do it Friday night. We'll have all weekend. No, it's fine. Whatever. Oh my God. So it's just so dealing with one of the issues with our stories, articles that we're talking about today. Yeah, it's just all, and then just personal beef within the company that somehow is bleeding into the IT department, specifically my area. And it's so annoying. Everyone thinks they're my boss.
Yeah.
When they're not.
Yep.
And they're the most important department ever.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep.
So much fun and then just summer got out, so the kids home all the time now, so it's wanting to do a bunch of fun family things. It's like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
So.
You know what? Sounds like you need a beer.
It does sound like I need a beer.
Yeah. Let's take care of that.
That's why I was like, who's on there? I will volunteer.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be drinking anyway.
Yeah. I was like, well, it's good. Do it. Might as well be able to do it and talk to people too.
Exactly. What you got for tonight, sir?
So tonight I don't know the percentage. Okay. 6%. 6%. All right. Not bad. But it's lost and rendered their heavy real Irish red ale.
Ooh.
Let's see if I get that in focus. Or is that just
It was there. It was there for a second. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Something like that. So a nice Irish red ale. There we go. That's good. Good enough. So go with the nice. I don't see too many red ales that come up to buy, so I bought it.
Yeah. Nice. I have, and I apologize because I believe someone sent this to me, and I don't remember who. You know what? This is probably
autofocus.
This is probably a Novella hub, because it's from Minneapolis. So this is. Who is this from? Insight Brewing in Minnesota. This is the Bloom Juicy Pale Ale with orange zest and tangerine.
Oh.
So 5.9%. Nice, bright summer pale. And this is going to contrast quite nicely with the beer I'm going to follow this up with. Just a little spoiler alert.
Oh, that is taking off.
So I'm pretty sure I have Novella to thank for this one. I've got quite a few options up in that area. That could be a Skull, that could be a Mr. Pink, that could be a number of different people. But I'm pretty sure this one came in a while ago from Novella. It's been in my fridge for quite some time.
Ah.
All right. There we go.
There we go.
Cheers, good sir. And cheers to all the rest of you.
Cheers to everyone.
A good version of Blue Moon. They did have the Tall Boy Blue Moon last time I checked at my local bottle shop, but they didn't have the 8% yet. As soon as I see the 8%, I'm going to snag that. And I will try the 8% on the show because I think that's going to be interesting.
Yes.
Have you had that yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But speaking of the Blue Moon, I almost bought a bunch of them, the regular one. Yeah. Walmart had the 16-ounce ones, the one closer to my work, for $1 a can.
Dude.
And I was like, oh, I should buy these.
I mean, it's not the best Belgian white, but it's a Belgian white at 99 cents.
Yeah, and at, 19 point whatever ounces.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there we go.
Man.
Let's see.
I totally would have snagged that.
So got 8%, $3. They should be around somewhere.
All right. So we got a couple of beer shout outs. In fact, I think I can bring up a couple of pictures here, which is kind of fun.
Oh, there we go.
So John J is drinking a Treehouse, King Julius. Thank you, John J, for sharing that one. Somewhere there's an ABV. I think he listed it here. Right below. 4.7 on Untapped.
Yep. I saw it. Yeah, King Julius at 8.4%. That's a big, and it's not like a cheap rating too. 43,000
check-ins.
Right. Yeah.
4.7.
So, yes.
Well done.
Well done. Very good beer.
Coffee and Cynicism checks into the Patreon, to the Discord server. He has an Equilibrium Brewing. There we go. Something like that. Aqueous Protractor Double IPA, clocking in, what is that, 8.5? Yeah.
Yeah, 8.5. 1,800 check-ins, 4.2.
Excellent. Some people started sharing them in the Discord, so I thought it might be kind of fun to get some shout-outs that way.
Nice little extra feature, too. Reason to join the Discord.
Exactly. Yeah, double IPA, 8.5%, 4.2 on Untapped. Dr. Thallium says, first time catching one of these live, joining in on the fun with a drink of my own from Wander Brewing in Bellingham, Washington. Excellent.
Nice.
Thanks for joining. Glad you were able to make it to a live one. Let's see. Saw a couple more. Indiana Cornbread Nerd, fantastic name, by the way. We had tornadoes and power outages today. How was your day? My day was better than that. I think is the best way to put it. Hope everyone is safe, and I hope everything is well over there. Harley's got a third 4-pack of Confluence 2199 IPA at 9%. It's very nice. That sounds very nice. I've had a couple Confluence, but never the 2199. Reverend's cracking into a Lavender Lemonade. That is the CBD seltzer from Rogue Ales and Spirits.
Oh, is it?
I've had that one a couple of times. It's quite good. I really enjoy that one. Net Guys got a Ballard Baller IPA from Red Hook. I've had that one a couple times as well.
We talked about it last time. The juicy one. What, but the Belgian one? See, I went and looked up. Blue Moon does have a tracker, but they don't list. Oh wait, Extra. There we go. It'll tell us where Extra is at. It says it's at Fred Meyer and Walgreens.
Okay.
So. Yeah, it should be somewhere around us.
Cool. And then Jay, not to be confused with John Jay, but JJ, checks in and says, I would toast, but am mid-drive to visit family, toasting in spirit. Also on the topic list, already said F it to dealing with Windows on Skylake Desktop and just installed Ubuntu. Yes. I think that's a great place to start, actually, I've seen a number of conversations pop up over the last couple of weeks to a month. Windows 10. As we get closer to the October 24th drop dead date, or October 14th, 2025, drop dead date of Windows 10 support officially ending. This conversation is going to come up more and more. But I'm seeing this come up more and more as a suggestion, and more like maybe a serious one. And I kind of wanted to get your thoughts as someone who still does a little bit of sysadmin work. I say a little. Someone who still does sysadmin work. Kind of get your thoughts, pick your brain a little bit, and I know you're just going to come at it from one perspective, but
it's one perspective, but
right. But I used to. I've been through many an OS shutdown in my day. I've also been through a number of different OS transitions. We've gone from Windows to Mac OS. We've done Chromebooks. We've done iPads. We've gone back to Windows. I migrated people off OS 9, for God's sakes. Like, I've been in this a while. I had to pry OS 9.2 out of some people's cold dead hands. I had some stragglers on Windows XP in 2015. I've been through it. I've been through this a number of times. But
I still have a Windows 7 system up and running.
Yeah. I mean, my arcade machine is Windows 7.
Well, we use it in production.
Yeah. I'm not surprised at all by that. To be perfectly honest with you.
No, we use it for, it's the smallest server we have, file server that we have, and they're just like, it's only 2 computers that need it for a really old Access program, and there it was for a 2002 Access program. There's like, why touch it? Why break it? We don't need to adjust it. And
quite honestly, in isolated situations like that, where you're not actually publicly exposed, where some people are going to crucify me, but in some industries, that's okay. It's an internal facing box. It's okay.
Well, and that's, I know, I don't disagree with that, because the person that probably built that, if it is a small enough system, is probably one of the owners, honestly. Someone who's been there a long time, probably going to die there with that system. And honestly, too, upgrading, they know how it works. They know the ins and out of it. It's all set up. So if there is a problem, they don't have to call someone to help out manage anything. And,
in a situation like that, where you're running Windows 7 literally as a file server for 2 other systems, it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. And that's kind of what I was going to say is your vulnerability, your level of exposure is actually quite limited for internal facing boxes. If you have a system that gets infected with something that likes to broadcast and find vulnerabilities in older software, older systems, you are vulnerable in that circumstance. If you are running let's just stick on that. So you're running a Windows 7 file server. You have a client that are the 2 clients that connect to that file server. Are those still being driven daily by end users who are using them as workstations, who are using them to access the internet, email? Okay. That's a little more exposed than I would like, because that is a user that is interacting directly, not a service that is interacting directly. And so that is more of that changes the dynamic a little bit. See, I'll break this down like this. My arcade machine behind me is still running Windows 7. I'm okay with that, because I'm not accessing the internet with that machine. And even beyond that, even if I did access the internet, I could still download Firefox and I could access the internet, and Firefox has all of its current SSL patches and things like that. Like, there might be some hooks out there that can kind of be dangerous, but for the most part, even browsing the internet on a Windows 7 machine, you're going to be okay from a general user standpoint. If you have users in production that are accessing that server with software, are the client machines fully up to date? It's just the access software that has like a hook.
Yes.
That okay.
Yeah.
Then you're probably okay for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, make sure they're running their antivirus. Make sure
not clicking on mistake. Well, actually, there is a downside though. Is with those particular two that are in service, are constantly opening up emails with attachments.
Yeah,
is the thing,
and that's why I said, is there a user interaction as a workstation on a daily basis, and that's going to be your primary exposure. But here's the deal. I don't think you're any more open to exposure there than you would be from any other file server. Outside of something with like ZFS with snapshot recovery, because one of the things that no invoices.exe.
Oh, I literally dealt with that.
So have I many times.
No, I am talking to Monday. Oh gosh. It was, hey, you got an invoice, please download it. It's like, we don't receive invoices like this. Here's your file, please download this program to view the file. No, don't do that. Don't click that.
Your exposure via email, you're gonna have to worry about crypto locked, about getting crypto locked. A more modern file system, a more modern file server than Windows 7 would have better protections for that, unless you have a third-party protection for that. Like Sophos has a kill switch, and 45 Drives has developed a kill switch. I know a number of other software antivirus file server type companies have developed training algorithms for detecting the bit flipping of CryptoLocker activity, to stop those processes in their tracks, to lock out client connections and that kind of thing. Windows 7 doesn't have that ability in and of itself. So you'll be vulnerable there, but I don't think necessarily any more vulnerable than just about any other file server without the protections added. So, getting back to the topic of Windows 10, dying on October 14th of this year.
14th, yeah.
The subject is coming up more and more of not going with Windows, of not replacing those machines with Windows machines.
Yeah. No, so right now we have the particular office that we have to upgrade. Now that I'm thinking about it, might need to be more, but I think it's mostly just ours, if I recall correctly, because I already did most of the outside office. I'd have to go double check. But anyways, let's just refer to mine. We're talking about 500 plus units, but slowly over time, and I haven't kept track of which ones are compatible to be updated, but any new one for the past year that I've needed to buy is Windows 11. But yes, we do have. 5 years ago, we went and bought a bunch of Xeons, like the old Xeon, the ones you have, the boxes, the Z.
Oh, the Z420s. Yeah.
Z420s. Yeah. So we have like about a dozen of those, and those aren't compatible. And well, now that's a waste of money, but that's also probably about 12 to 20 workstations, and that's a lot of money. And they're good. They're beasts.
Yeah.
I mean, for a workstation, they're beasts.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to have to discuss with the owners of saying, the bosses, hey, we got to upgrade these because we do a lot of vulnerability because the people that we use, they're idiots. We all know that. And the problem is, it might not happen today, might not happen October 14th or the next year, might be a year, but there is a crack, and that crack can get bigger. It will only get bigger.
Yes.
And so do we spend the money now, or do we think about maybe a different operating system? Well, another operating system, then you run into driver issues. You run into compatibility with other problems and printers and my custom software that I'm going to have to do, and training, the typical browser. Literally, people will be like, if it doesn't say Chrome, I don't know what else browses the internet.
Yeah.
And even if it says Chromium and it's blue circle, like that's not what I'm used to.
Yeah.
I mean, people are just like that. So does the company pay for the end user experience, or do they keep them satisfied by just upgrading and spending a lot of money and being secure? But then you're wasting wonderful computers hardware. I mean, it's not like the greatest, but literally this is like kind of what your channel is about, and you have perfectly good hardware that is just then going to be sitting there. And if we do end up switching over, I'm going to be getting like 40 computers that are perfectly fine, but yeah, they can't run Windows 11.
Content.
I know. I was like, Jeff, want some more towers? I got tons of Xeons.
God, I don't need any more X99 stuff.
Oh, I see. I have. I know. I gave one to Steve. I gave one to Steve. I gave one to my nephew. Yeah. I have one. I have two sitting in my office. Mm-hmm. It's just like they're everywhere, you know. But I have a bunch. But then I also, yeah, and it's basically I'll have a bunch of i5 to i7 7th gen. Okay. And down.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, that's still really good, but because Windows 10 is going to be end of life, it's going to have probably a shelf life very similar to what Windows 7 did, which is I'm going to say about 2 years. And people are going to give up on it 100%. Be like, oh, it's just gone. It's retro. It's bad. That's my prediction. As far as a company switching to Linux, I don't know. I see the appeal. We played with the concept of that because we wanted to go the whole Raspberry Pi route for all of our stuff. Low power, very cheap, $100 a unit type of a deal.
Yeah.
And we even tried Google Chromebooks, and a lot of people just didn't like the interface.
Yeah.
And it really was that. And so they're just like, okay, we'll just spend the money. Also at the time too, there's only 2 of us on the team. So learning Linux and learning the security behind that and all of those, it's like, oh, we're already 90% there with Windows and we know where to look, what to look at. So it's just a different beast that way.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up that your IT staff for 500 endpoints is only 2 people. Because that's one thing a lot of people don't consider. Now, we'll go back through a couple of your points. And number 1, you said your users are idiots. I don't think you mean that facetiously or negatively or maliciously. I think, John, I'm bailing you out here.
Some of them watch this.
Some of them, yeah, and that's fine. What I would say is I would rephrase that of the people who you hire to be a receptionist or a salesperson or a data entry specialist or whoever else that works at your particular company. They're not techies. They're not someone who lives and breathes it and understands the software. They're people who are trained have a particular set of skills, and knowing the difference between Chrome and Firefox aren't that intersection. And that's okay. Not everyone needs to be a tech expert. You have to be willing to meet people where they're at. However, part of meeting people where they're at might mean you need to run Windows. Because people were trained on Windows, people understand Windows.
And then, well, the other 2 things, like you said, you had to deal with people going into either Apple or Windows. Those are what 99% people deal with at their home. So they're used to that. Yeah. And then you're then taking them in and having to train them on a new system. And then even when you hire someone new, they're even more scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So, while there is this concept out there of we could save a bunch of money on Windows licenses and hardware upgrades, because you said right now you've got, 30 machines that might need to be replaced here in the very near future because they're not Windows 11 compatible?
Yeah, if not, maybe let's go under 100.
Okay. let's say 50. Nice round number, 10% of your
50.
Infrastructure.
Yeah.
Nice round number, right? Let's say you've got to replace 50 machines. Any machine that you buy from a refurbisher is likely going to come with a Windows license. It is going to come with a Windows 10 or Windows 11 Pro license that you can then assimilate into your pool. You can add it to your Active Directory. You can manage it like any other system that you already did. And the users show up and they go, oh, the start menu's in a different place. Cool. Is Chrome still on the desktop? Do my printers still work? Do I still access my files the same way? Do I open Microsoft, Excel, to access my spreadsheets and yada, yada, yada. Like
when I say start logo, it's the Windows thing. Oh, okay. It's the 4 squares. Oh yeah. I know what that looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a familiarity there. If you were to suddenly switch those 50 users over to Linux, number one, you as an IT staff need to figure out how to install Linux as a standardized distribution. Yep. And if you don't have experience doing that, that's a tall order for an IT staff of two to support 50 machines, which is only 10% of your install base. Issue number 2, training your staff to know how to use these new things. I will say one thing in favor of Linux that I couldn't have said even 7 years ago is that Linux, from a device driver standpoint, has gotten to the point where basically every device works now, outside of like very specialty things. Like I have an OBS Stream Deck or an Elgato Stream Deck with touch buttons on it. There is no Elgato software for Linux. So it's a third-party program that you have to use. It's third-party implementation. It's real clunky. It doesn't work all that well. But when I did my Linux experiment a little over a year ago, every webcam, every PCI card, every Wi-Fi device, every Ethernet driver, every video card, everything else was plug and play.
Yeah.
It all just worked. And that's something I couldn't have said 5 to 7 years ago. There was always going to be a printer or a video card or something that stopped you dead in your tracks. And I don't think that's the case for the most part anymore. Obviously, there's always going to be the edge case, but I think generally speaking, basically all hardware is supported under Linux anymore. If you're able to get those 50 users trained, hey, you can open Chrome. Yeah, you're going to have to access your files a little bit differently. They're going to look different. Your file browser is different. Yeah. You don't go to your P drive anymore. That's your network share for your shared files. It's now you have to click on the file browser, which might be called Dolphin, or it might be called this, or it might be called that, or maybe it's the GNOME browser, or maybe it's this, or maybe it's that. That's up to you to centralize on a distribution that meets your users' needs. After you get them into their files, what software are they using? Are they using LibreOffice? Are they using OpenELEC? Are they using... do you migrate everyone who's on Linux over to Google Drive? Or OneDrive or Office 365?
And we do pay for OneDrive.
Yeah. So maybe there's a use case for Office 365 to ease that transition, but then again, now you're spending more money to avoid spending money to make it more familiar on a thing that's not familiar. So did you win, or is this just more headache than it's worth? I say this as a Linux fan, as someone who desperately wants Linux to work, desperately wants Linux to be a viable option in the business workplace. I would love for it to be there. But because Windows has been the de facto standard for 30 to 35 years, that's a lot of user retraining, and that's a lot of IT staff retraining, and that's quite a hill to climb.
Yeah, I mean,
your scenario is an IT staff of 2.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think Windows you'd have a really big crack in security right away come October 14th. But it will happen. It will happen. It's a guaranteed. And so let's just go with the 50 devices. A refurbished workstation right now of like an i8 that is compatible is about $300. So you're looking at $1,500 to replace everything. But I don't have to do that all at once. I could do 6-month increments and here's 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, or if they want to, but I have more room to play instead of having to retrain someone. And then it's not just retrain that person. There's a high turnaround. So you have to retrain the person who's training that person. And they're going to be frustrated. And so the amount of frustration that it can cause the company, or if they move, because people either get promoted or where are we going to use these workstations? Because they're scattered all the way around, from someone who's a senior employee to brand new employees.
Yeah,
and so that's a huge difference too. So if it's a senior employee, they're going to complain, and they're the ones that probably bring in a lot of the money that management likes. Yeah. And if they complain, their voice is going to be heard. And then they're just going to move my computer somewhere else. Yeah, it's just a lot of headaches. And so is $1,500 a one-time hit. Boom, it's all stuff. Nobody gets a headache.
Right.
Everything's all done.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good. And I think that scenario is pretty similar across the board, smaller or bigger. That problem can scale.
Yeah. Also, we're not even talking about the, like I mentioned some of your time. Any time that you put into doing this is additional labor cost to your company.
Yep.
And imaging 50 desktops to your standardized Windows install. I personally, myself, individually, one person, I could image 300 desktops a day.
Yeah.
I can get them set up. I could roll, if I came in prepared, if I had 1 day of prep, maybe 2 days of prep with like specialized software and things like that, I could reimage your entire company in less than 48 hours myself.
Yes.
I've never done a lot of Linux desktop distribution. Now we're talking one-offs. Now we're talking maybe doing 4 systems at a time and taking 90 minutes per system, so 90 minutes per 4 systems. You've now taken up 3 weeks of your time to image 50 desktops.
Yeah. No,
we haven't even trained anyone how to use them yet.
Yeah. No, and I've always liked the concept of Linux, and it's open source. It's always coming up with new innovations. It's always, like you said, even when you started this channel, Linux was like, it's that redheaded stepchild, and it's come a long way.
Yeah.
It's great for little projects. Again, with the Raspberry Pis and everything, it's always been that tinkerer's OS. It's that single-use project, and it's come so far to where an article like this and a movement like this, that what people are trying to push, that just shows how far it's come. But unfortunately, Microsoft still has the edge over a lot of corporate offices. Apple has, probably more of the graphic design area. Linux, I just don't know, unless they're going to start coming out with some sweet computers pre-installed with Linux. I don't think we'll ever see Linux as the number one Office OS system that everyone's got to use.
And Zach in the chat has been sounded off a couple of times of until Active Directory has a legit competitor, because people are like, well, you can run LDAP in Linux and still get access to your stuff. Active Directory is not just LDAP authentication. You know, here's your files, enjoy.
Yeah.
It's not just your permissions within the network, enjoy. It is literally every knob, dial, and switch that you can flip inside of Windows. You can make that happen from the back end on a dynamic machine or individual user basis. If this user logs into a machine in Minnesota, you can have an Active Directory script that will install their software and move their local desktop to them, all invisible in the background.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen on Linux. And I'm sure there's one genius who's figured it out. If you would write the software to make it happen so the rest of us could make that work, then I'd switch to Linux. But until you do that, your black magic scripting is just that. You're a script kiddie. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I totally didn't even think about it, because that's what we do. We don't use it as much, but we're trying to use it. Like, that is a project we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
There's only a few people that have it, but still, yeah, it is very important. And that's another thing of, we wouldn't know how to deal with that. And so we'd have to learn before we even install these devices.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No,
I love the idea. I love the idea of free and open source operating system, ubiquitous software, documents that move with a user, web-based access. You know, I'm the guy who promotes, you know, distributed desktop with VDI solutions through virtualization, for God's sake. Like, that is my pie in the sky for like a home user. In fact, I got these really cool things. Speaking of Chromebooks, I recently picked up a couple of the best Chromebooks that have ever existed. In the Chromebook Pixels. This is the very first Chromebook Pixel. So 2400 by 1600 3x2 IPS touchscreen, unibody aluminum, like MacBook level construction, but in a freaking Chromebook. I'm gonna have... My kids are going to use these now as thin clients to log into their gaming machines.
Nice.
Because we transitioned so many times back and forth in my house from like dedicated desktops to going to like VDI setups and then back and then shared desktops. And I'm always experimenting with setups. And at this point, we're running out of machines for my family to play on. And so I'm going to kind of recommit to doing virtualized gaming. And we still have the two desktops up in my living room that me and my wife game on. But my kids are now, especially now that summer is upon us, and both of them have friends that they want to play games with and things like that, like, they need their own dedicated machines again. And so I think next week I'm going to reset up my RTX A5000 on my AMD EPYC Genoa server with probably like 4 game installs off of that one card. And so 8 gigabyte installs. It's a 32 gig card. You get 8 gigs of video memory with 16 gigs of system memory. You'll get like 6 cores and 12 threads of EPYC Genoa. And you can stream your desktop to a Chromebook anywhere in the house, and that'll be freaking amazing. So looking forward to that.
Someone was asking, did you say the processor that was in those?
This is a 7th gen Intel i5, I want to say.
i5.
So 4-core, 4-thread, but
okay.
Intel HD 600 graphics, which does have quick sync, so it does have video decode, and so it makes a perfect thin client for Parsec or Moonlight or whatever other variant of streaming software you want to run. And has AC Wi-Fi, so it is 5 gigahertz. First generation gigabit Wi-Fi, which 300 megs real world. Plenty. Plenty.
But that's plenty.
Yeah. 20 megs get you a really good 1080p stream. 30 to 35 megs get you a really good 1440p stream. This is somewhere in between at a 1440p but 3x2. So
I don't think your kids are really caring at this age about frame count.
They're 60 hertz displays anyway, and we're gonna lock the frame. We're gonna VSync them at 60 hertz anyway. So
yeah.
I don't need my virtualized gaming machines for my kids' Minecraft sessions to blaze an RTX A5000 and Genoa server at 190 hertz. Like, give me 60, lock it at 60, and draw 50 watts, please. That's what I want. Lego Boy says that RTX A5000 is cute. Haha, try AH100 NVLs. Someone didn't hear the news last week. I have an NVL, or I have an HGX V100 system on the way. So 8 SXM V100 32 gigs on the way. We're gonna do some gaming on that box, let me tell you. I've also got some more fun stuff in the works as well. Possibly an L4 too, possibly a Blackwell 6000 Pro. Lots of things in the works for... Oh, that Hopper is cute. By the way, Hopper can't render graphics because it doesn't support DirectX 12 or Vulkan or OpenGL. It's a compute-only card, so... See me again when you can actually play games. So running old aluminum MacBook Airs or nice Chromebooks can easily run Parsec or Moonlight. Actually, yes. My oldest daughter, she currently still has one of my old MacBook Airs. It's a 13-inch MacBook Air. I wanna say 4th gen i5, like 2013, 2014-ish. God, it's as old as she is. But it's still a really good laptop. So yeah. But no, these Pixelbook Pros, I guess you can call them, those will be a nice upgrade. And running Ampere on the back end, they'll get ray tracing, they'll get DLSS, they'll get all the modern upgrades. Probably even with like 3 machines running with 8 gigs of VRAM each, they'll probably about equivalent to an RTX 3050, which is plenty for every modern game.
Yeah.
Especially at 60 hertz, especially if that's where your standards are at. Oh no, I can't play Cyberpunk at ultra settings. Cool, play it at medium. Not that my kids are playing Cyberpunk.
I know, I was going to say, the thing is, I'm most...
Not that my kids are going to play Indiana Jones. Not that my kids are going to play... My kids might play Oblivion Remaster. That might be... I think my oldest has wanted to play that. So I think we might have to
Roblox.
Stretch some limits so that'll happen. What's the status on the new Office? I'm actually hoping to have some things to share within the next month or two. Every once in a while, I will get the question of what happened to the new Office. We did some fundraising for a new Office. We achieved 50% of our goal. And that was at the time that I started raising funds. That was 18 months, almost 2 years ago. That those funds came in. Those funds are still sitting aside, but prices have gone up on offices since then because I wanted to build the property and lumber material, cost of materials is through the roof. But really, realistically, back then I needed about 16 to 17,000. I only raised 10, which means 6 after taxes. So I think I have like 8,000 in an account set up for building an office. but realistically today, that's going to be between 20 and 22. If that ends up being the decision that I make. So the money's still there. But I'm actually hoping to have something to say on an office space in the next couple of months. So
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yes. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. Still something I desperately need. I'm still in the 180 square foot basement office that I've been running this thing out of for the last 5 years. And my rack is still in my garage, and I would love to be more efficient than I am. And a lot of that is space, but space costs money. So how the sensor's coming along? Great question.
Oh yeah.
So we went through crowd supply. The crowd supply campaign ended on May 15th. And actually this afternoon I got we did a couple of rounds of approving what the funding actually was and things like that. I approved the final version of the funding on Friday, and this afternoon, like 3:00 this afternoon, I think, I got notification that the funds have now been transferred. And so now I get to wait for my bank to approve a very large ACH transfer. So we can move on to the next steps. The next steps are getting... we have another round of PCBs coming in that will serve as some of the final validation boards and some of our final testing boards, because we need to get CE certified so we can sell in the EU and also be like globally accepted. There's no radio on this, so there's no need for FCC certification, but we do need CE certification. And so CE and UKCA are kind of the things that are on our radar right now. So we are doing some testing on that. The early tests have come back very, very good for both ESD and potential interference issues. And so we don't think we're going to need to spin another revision of our board. We did add some additional circuit protection with a couple of diodes on the USB input, as well as a couple other like safety mitigations here and there for more just like our own hardware protection. But I think we're in a really good place with OpenViro. So at the moment we're on time. Like I said, end of summer was our estimate, which means September, and I think we are still on track for that.
Cool. Oh, super chat.
Green, thank you so much, Green. I was finally able to force 120 hertz mode on my X-Real Air AR glasses on my Red Magic 9 Pro via developer settings. Parsec at 1080p, 120 hertz is insane. That sounds amazing. The X-Real Air AR glasses, 1080p OLED displays. They are mind-changing if you can get them to work properly, depending on your device. When I first reviewed them, they were 60 hertz displays. They got upgraded to 90 hertz, and then they got more revisions of firmware that upgraded them further to 120 hertz. And so the same glasses that I bought like 3.5 years ago are now 120 hertz OLED displays you can strap to your face, and they're freaking amazing. I took them on my trip to Taiwan. Used them on the plane for like 4 or 5 hours on the way there. I think a couple hours on the way back. Used them in the hotel room a couple of times. And fantastic. So maybe I should do an update video on those.
Is that the regular model, or is that the Air, or is that the
That is the
Air
X-Real Air AR. The
Okay.
X-Real Air.
They
are coming out with a Pro model that is a slightly larger field of view, so slightly bigger display in your eyes. The Airs have 3 degrees of freedom inside-out tracking, and so they track rotational data, and so you can sit in one, like if I sit in my office chair and I spin like this, I can see a display like lock a display in place, and I can rotate my head. The thing is, I can't move my head. The Pros are coming out with 6 degree of freedom tracking, which will allow you to lock a thing in 3D space and then walk around it. And like very much like virtual reality. And that's a thing that I'm looking forward to. Both on the phone, potentially also in a Windows environment, potentially also like a Steam VR virtual desktop environment. Like that could be very huge on gaming handhelds and the like, to have like some Steam VR integration for virtual desktop, multi-monitor support in 3D space. So yes, I want some of the Pro displays. I got a quick demo of them at CES earlier this year, and I freaking want them. So cool.
Trying to see if there's any on sale.
Sometimes you can get the X-Rail Airs for as low as like a buck, like $199.
Yeah, those ones are on sale right now on their website for $189.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, that's cheap.
If you have a Steam Deck, or a laptop with DisplayPort alt mode over USB-C that you can plug into your laptop and they're good. They're really, really good. Yeah. Definitely worth $200. All right.
What you got for your 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock?
It has officially been an hour. So now it's time to use the Hops and Brews glass to torture John.
Oh, wait. It's going to be wax dipped or bourbon barrel aged.
It's not wax dipped, but you are on the right path. Let me say some words and let's see how close you get, okay?
Okay.
Portland Brewer.
Okay. Portland Brewer.
Portland, Oregon Brewer.
Okay, so not Oregon. Portland,
Oregon.
Okay, it's a great notion.
Not great notion.
Not great notion. Okay, what's the next clue? Barrel aged Portland, Oregon. What would be
stout?
So the break side.
We'll say stout.
So Breakside has a lot of, but they still have a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
And they had those paper one, the 12-ounce ones in paper. They're limited edition runs.
It's not one of those. This is a 16.9.
Is it a bomber?
It's not a bomb. It's pint plus.
Okay.
Is it 16.9?
So it's a can.
16.9. Yeah.
It's a can.
Not a can. It's a bottle.
Wait.
16.9.
Stout Portland. Are they still in business?
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
Think big. Huge.
That'd be like
gigantic.
Rogue,
even.
Maybe. What? Oh wait. Oh, gigantic. Dumb. Dumb.
From Gigantic Brewing. 2024 barrel-aged varieties, Imperial Stout.
Okay. The Yeti, not the Yeti. They have the Abominable.
Ooh, both good guesses. This is the most premium Russian Imperial Stout.
Oh, I think I know what that one is. I forgot what they called it though. This one has like a cricket on the front. In like a Navy uniform? Yes. I know. Yeah, it's their Russian Imperial Stout. Yes.
Yeah.
It's just called Imperial Stout. Yes.
This one is a special one though.
Oh, it's one of the, what is that? Maple? What is that?
Angel's Envy.
Ooh, I've never even seen that.
Yeah. This is not just their most premium Russian Imperial Stout. This is their aged in Angel's Envy barrel-aged Russian Imperial Stout. Shout out to my brother-in-law, TJ, who got me a very late birthday present. He moved up to the Portland area a little while ago, and I say a little while, like 2-3 years ago. But in that time, he has been getting more and more into the beer scene, and like he's always been like a whiskey guy, but then he's like, well, I can only drink so much whiskey. Like, what's up here for beer? And he goes, oh my God, have you tried stouts? They're amazing. Oh. Like, and so he's having like this whole like experience of living in the Portland area and going like, I can go down and get like a barrel aged, like really good stout. That's amazing. And, so I've started doing some beer trades with him, just like you and I do with each other. Like, oh yeah, I got like these 4 for you. Here you go. So he picked me up the 2024 Angel's Envy gigantic, most premium Russian Imperial Stout. And I'm going to put it in a hops and brews glass.
Well, one should. As one should. Yes. Oh. Those are interesting sized glasses too. Or bottles.
Yes. Yeah, it's 16.9, so it's the it's the half liter is what it is. It's 500 ml.
So I went and it's coming to me. I ordered it. Steve came over for Father's Day, so we were like, well, what do we do? Oh, look at that thing.
God, what a good pour.
Look at that head. It's just dark.
It's super dark. It's cacao.
Yeah, I was gonna looks like what's it? Cocoa Puff cereal dark. But there's the light test. It blacks out.
Not even a hint.
Nope. What were we drinking? When that started, that was at your first house, right?
Yeah, was it? It might have been here. No, it was remote. That we did that.
Was it?
You were doing one of your dry marches or one of your beer only marches.
Oh yeah.
And you were drinking a gluten-free stout, I want to say.
Oh yeah.
And
it's probably like Ghostfish or something.
Yeah, it was I don't think it was Ghostfish, but it was something similar. It was some gluten-free stout that you had picked up. It was like 5%. And I went, well, I can't see mine through mine, and you held yours up, and it was just like a brown flashlight.
It was so bad. It was. I remember it was like I was shocked at how much light was shining through.
Yeah. And ever since then, I've got to do the flashlight test.
Yeah. Well, I am probably not. Mine is not that. Mine is not in a bottle. It is not barrel aged. It's not as big, but it's not an IPA either. So I have Glasgow and Graves Wee Heavy Scotch Ale. Let's see. There we go. So going with a 9% Scotch Ale.
I do appreciate a good Scotch Ale.
Well, that again goes back to I saw a red, I saw Scotch Ale. I was like, I have to buy these because they just don't come up often to buy.
Mm-hmm. Oh man.
Ooh, that's good.
Oh man. Super smooth. Velvet smooth through the first 3/4 of the flavor.
Yeah, there's only 69 check-ins of that beer of yours.
Mm-hmm. Super smooth, very flat, not a lot of evolution. It hits your tongue and it's molasses and bourbon. And that's it. Like, it's a very not very complex beer, but velvety smooth for, like I said, about the first 3/4. Like, normally I expect a little bit more evolution.
Which is the gigantic imperial stout is kind of a bitey imperial Russian stout.
This is not bitey.
Yeah,
there is no bite to this. Like, normally I expect like that bourbon to hit you right up front, and kind of pop you a little bit, and then it evolve into like molasses and chocolate and things like that. This is like, there's no initial bite, but it's like molasses, bourbon, and maybe like a dark fruit, like a fig. Like it's a little bit of like a dark fruity sweetness.
Okay, yeah,
is what I would say.
Well, that's probably the barrel and the roastiness just merging together, because you get that sweetness and that roasting.
There's no roast until you start to swallow and you finish the flavor, and then it all fades away to a straight shot of espresso.
That sounds pretty good.
In an instant. And I really like it.
Well, I was saying that Steve came over for Father's Day, and we opened up, it's like a 22% for Father's Day. And then I showed him, though, I ordered, it's probably the largest actual beer other than, which is, I think it might be more than Utopia. What is Utopia's proof?
Oh, Utopia's proof is like 28. It varies between like 25 and 35. By the way, Skull is checking in. I told Skull I was going to open a special one, and he said he would match me, and so he's got a Bourbon County Stout Vanilla Rye Stout 2024.
Oh, nice.
So, cheers to you, Skull.
I have a 24.1% double barrel aged Last Guardian, which is when we were here for Steve's birthday. We had a Last Guardian that was I think 21%, and it was the normal one. So this one's going to be double barrel aged, almost 25%, and it was actually $26. So I was like, that's a great deal. But yeah, we'll have to have you back over again to open that one. Have you and Steve come back over for that.
That does sound good.
2024.
That does sound really good. Novella Hub says, how was the Insight Bloom Pale Ale? I think you've had that for at least 2 years. Yeah, I think so. Like I said, that has been in my fridge for a while. That was good. I'm glad I didn't age it any longer. I think it was starting to turn. It was starting to get a little kettly on me. But not to the point that I disliked it. But it was kind of exactly what I wanted. It was nice and bright. There was a little bit of raspberry, blackberry kind of to the floor of the flavor that I really enjoyed. Like I said, it was starting to turn just like slightly kettle sour on me. Like you could taste that yeast getting a little bit bitey. But overall, for a 5.5%, 5.3 pale ale, I really enjoyed it.
I think, what was it? Didn't the thought? Oh, I think.
And Skull says,
speaking of just weird good pale ales, slightly jumping ahead of beer news, but I just remember this.
Oh, sure.
It was Sierra Nevada's pale ale, a 45-year-old recipe, just won world best cup beer for pale ale categories.
I mean,
but it's a sweet beer. It's great. Anyways, sorry for interrupting.
No, you're fine. So Skull says on the 2024 Vanilla Rye Stout from Bourbon County, little sharp, still softer from when he had it last, and more rye forward. Yeah, it was. I had two of those bottles. I had two of the Vanilla Rye Stouts. I tried one in December, right after they came out, and I commented in December, this bottle is still very young. This one's gonna need some time to mature. It has been 9 months now. It's nice to know it's rounded out a little bit, but I think that 2024 vanilla, I think that's going to be a 2026 opener. I think maybe March. Let's give it a full 30 months, and we'll try it March like 26. That's my thoughts on that one. Especially if you're saying it's still fairly sharp. Like, the rye is starting to come out, but I like my rye. I want my rye to really poke out. So you went 9 months. I'm going to go another 9 months. I'm going to go at least, I guess it'd be 30 months or 18 months at that point.
Yeah, usually your typical aging is like 6 months, year. It's about 6 months increments. Yeah. 3 to 6 months is where you can probably judge something.
Yeah.
Look at the bottom of, if they have a bottle date, judge it by that, not your.
Which I guess from Black Friday, we're only 7 months in at this point. So yeah, it's about time to crack one open, see where it's at.
So yeah, if you can. If you have the money and you're wanting to start to get into aging or something, buy probably 3, one fresh, one 6 months to a year, and then one 1 year to 5 years within those. You can have it within those time frames. But that's if you have it. Whereas, Bourbon County Stout, you're probably not going to do that by 3 of them. But if, like, say, a Bigfoot. Right. Or Waldo's or something, some more of the ones that come in a pack.
Yeah.
But actually, no, maybe with the
now
new
the Bourbon Counties have the stubbies.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So maybe that'd be great.
There we go. Novella wants to know: should I open a 2022 Biscotti Stout later? Ooh.
Oh.
Be still my heart.
I think I still have one of those.
I think now's a good time. We're 3 years on.
Yeah.
I say go for it.
Well, maybe. I might. I need to clean my fridge out and take inventory of everything again.
Yeah, you need to see where. The thing is, when you get large inventories, I've been actually paring mine down over the last 18 months or so. Especially my liquor cabinet. For years, I had like a 50 bottle bar. And unfortunately, I'm down to like 9. Like, yeah. I ran out of whiskey the other day. Woo! I ran out of whiskey the other day. I couldn't believe it. Like, the only thing I had left in my house was my infinity bottle. I'm out of whiskey. I haven't been out of whiskey since I was 21 officially.
I was gonna say 21. You don't have a Seagram 7 bottle stashed somewhere in a closet?
I thought I did. The Seagram 7 above the fridge, it wasn't there. No. I had a bottle of New Amsterdam gin and some other vodka above the fridge as well, but my Seagram 7 was gone. Yeah, I came downstairs. I looked over on the shelf. I have a couple of whiskey bottles still here. Like, I have maybe a shot left of the Glenlivet Caribbean cask. I've got maybe a shot left of this, but I was like, I want an old fashioned. I want to make myself a drink, and I couldn't. And what the crap? So yeah, that was weird. So I'm hoping to start building that collection back up. Like, one of my goals was actually to start paring it down a little bit and figuring out exactly what I wanted. Exactly what I wanted to stock on a regular basis. And I think I've got that all figured out at this point. And so now it's like, all right, now it's time to go rebuy and build that collection back up. where you know like every bottle is a winner.
We know what Jeff wants for Christmas now.
Yeah, because before it was like, yeah, 32 of these bottles winners. 18? Reduced to 7 and 7. I couldn't even make myself a 7 and 7. That's the problem. So I made an emergency run to the liquor store and actually found a Templeton Midnight Rye.
Ooh, that's
which is an Iowa rye that is aged in or finished in port casks, which I always love a good port cask finish. And that has been fantastic. I made myself, I think, 2 old fashions with that now, or 1 old fashioned and 1 Mr. Black old fashioned. So a little coffee splash in there.
No, I like Templeton's just straight rye. I think it's 7-year-old.
4-year on their standard. They've also got a 6. They've also got they've got a 12.
Yeah, no, I think I had a bottle of 4-year-old a few months back. It's just a nice good,
nice and solid.
$32, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was really happy with that. Anyway, we do have some more news to get to. Intel. Remember Intel?
I do. They do stuff with computers and numbers and
little local company of ours.
They're tiny. It's like you ever hear that company Nike? I think they're starting up. Yeah, it's probably similar.
Yeah, little startup brewery called Widmer. Yeah.
Never heard of them.
Yeah. Intel. Man, it feels like I'm going the full circle with this because Intel had their Alchemist cards, their Intel Arc cards, first generation cards that were very well received. And people couldn't wait for the second generation. And then the second generation came out, and Intel, but the entire time Intel's going, well, we're probably going to cancel them anyway, so don't get too attached. And the second generation came out with the B580, which is like their mid-range card, $250 card, and they're like, okay, well, where's your big one? I really want to buy the big one. And Intel was like, yeah, we're probably going to cancel it. Like, we're not going to make that card. Like, we're already so close to third generation, we might just wait for third generation, or we might just cancel it entirely. I don't know yet. And it's like, well, that sucks. I'd really like to see second generation big card, flagship card. You know, what do you got? We're probably going to cancel it. And that was the story since like December, is we're never going to see BIG Battlemage. All of a sudden, Intel has updated drivers and Mesa and everything else, basically downstream drivers for BIG Battlemage. BMG G31. That is the code name of Intel's large Battlemage chip. 31 compute unit. Battlemage chip.
56-bit, yeah. 16 gig plus DDR6 or GDDR6.
Yep.
32 ZX 2 cores. So
yeah. For comparison, the G21 is the chip that is inside of the Intel B580, which is their current mid-range $250 offering. Now, this could mean a couple of different things, because all we know is the chip that is present inside, which is the G31. What we know is the G31 is probably going to see the light of day somewhere. Is this going to land only in the professional card, or are they going to release a B770? Are they going to release a big consumer card? We still don't know yet. But what we do know is that the chip at least exists, which, based on the latest information I had as of December, BIG Battlemage was not going to exist. They were going to skip it and wait until Celestial, which is their third generation cards. So, who knows what we'll see, if we'll see, what we'll see. But I think we will end up seeing a big Battlemage ship, which flies in the face of what I told you like a month ago. So
yeah,
awesome.
No, I mean that'll be an interesting thing, because if it does happen, hopefully we don't know price point. There was nothing in here price point, but we're looking at probably a decent range competitive to what, the 50, 60, 50, 70 range.
Probably not quite. Although maybe.
Maybe.
I'd hesitate to. I mean, the B580. No, sorry. Let me take that back. The B580 is competitive with the 4060 and even the 4060 Ti.
Okay.
The B580 also has some driver overhead issues where it needs a really strong CPU to compete with that level of card. Intel has said they are aware of it. They are working on a fix. Hopefully we'll get a fix. Hopefully it's not an issue inherent with the architecture or driver design, that you need a 9800X 3D to achieve the performance of an RTX 4060 with a $250 card. But we'll find out. But yeah, with a B770, it makes sense that we might be on 5060, 5060 Ti kind of level performance. Maybe even chasing a bit beyond that. They're not going to reach the 5070.
You don't think so?
Like, let's pump our brakes there. Like, I think there is an upper echelon at which they will hit, and I think it's 5060 Ti, maybe beating it in some performance tests, but they're not going to hit 5070
individual. Yeah.
Okay. But the fact that this card exists, the fact that they're shipping it, might mean that Intel is actually devoted to making this whole thing work.
Now, what do you think? What are we expecting or feeling price range here? Because, like the 5060 is 300 MSRP, which we all know that's not going to be it. But so
I think the B770 solidly beats. I mean, the B580 is going to be competitive with the 5060. As far as performance goes. And so I would expect 50% more compute units, more execution units, XE units, 32 versus 20 versus 20. I would expect that to be well and above the performance of a 5060, pushing a 5060 Ti, maybe even bridging the gap between a 5060 Ti and a 5070. So performance range wise, maybe $500. MSRP, $399 is what I would guess.
$399. Yeah,
I think a $399 price point would make the most sense for 32 XE units.
I was going to say $350. Yeah, so that's right around there. $50 difference. Now they do have they're known for having driver issues, and so but we're hoping that this is not going to have that, right?
Intel's drivers make massive strides in very short amount of time. Remember, you have to remember that NVIDIA and AMD have 23 and a half years more experience building high-end drivers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They're gonna be better. However, Intel is bridging that gap very quickly. So, how much RAM? 16 gig is what it's sounding like. I mean, the B580 ships with 12 for $250. I would imagine 16 gigs is at a minimum. I don't think we're going to get anything beyond that, but I would guarantee this is a 16 gig card.
No, probably.
Yeah. Maybe they appease the gamers and they introduce a 24 gig card, even though it's utterly pointless at that performance level. But maybe they do. But I expect this to be a 16 gig card.
Yeah.
Less than 16 makes no sense. I argue against that. I think 12 is a really sweet spot to be right now, especially at a sub $500 price point. And I will argue that. I'm actually considering making a full video on 8 versus 12 versus 16 and why does 8 still exist and why 8 still kind of makes sense in some markets. I didn't say all markets. I didn't say all markets. I said why 8 should probably still exist, especially at the $300 price point. I don't think that NVIDIA should have released a 5060 Ti with 8 gigs. I think that should have been a 12 gig card or a 16 gig card. But when you look at the top of their stack with the 5070 Ti also being a 16 gig card, it's stupid to match that. So probably 12. But 8 gigs on a 5060, 8 gigs on an RX 9060. Yeah, that exists for a reason, and it exists for a really good reason. It's to make a $299 price point.
Well, it's also to get people to buy the product and gamers to start buying new graphics cards, or beginners to buy these newer graphics cards so you can play it, and they're entry level graphics cards.
We got spoiled as gamers for about 10 years between 2010 and 2020, where hardware was far outpacing the development, was far outpacing the software demands of games.
Yeah.
Far outpacing it. As far as resolution ability, like graphics cards didn't have the raster ability to draw anything at 4K. And so why would a developer include 4K textures and 4K assets and render that many polygons when it's going to run at 22 FPS? So 8 gigs was enough of a frame buffer for 1080p.
Yeah.
8 gigs is still enough of a frame buffer for 1080p. The problem is 4K. If you understand resolutions, 4K is 4 times the resolution of 1080p. It's not double. It's 4 times.
Yeah.
Are we going to get 32 gig cards to properly support 4K? No. It doesn't make economic sense. Especially at the low end of things. Especially at $299 and $349. Doesn't make any sense at all. I had a very poignant conversation with, I'm just going to say, a rep over the last week. Speaking directly to the entry-level market, speaking directly to the fake MSRP of cards today, and the 8 gigabyte question. We as a Western market, and by Western I mean US, Canada, and most of Europe. We as a Western market, we can buy a 1440p or a 4K 144 hertz OLED for $500. And then we expect to buy a $500 graphics card that'll drive it. Other markets, second world, third world markets, where cards still exist, cards are still sold new, but are heavily taxed and tariffed by the nations that exist there. Let's focus on Brazil. Brazil has like a 70% tariff on imported electronics. So where we might consider a 4K monitor to be like a de facto standard, or even 1440p, because you can pick up a 1440p panel on Amazon for like $100.
$100, yep.
A 1440p panel in Brazil is $250 US, not accounting for the local income of Brazilian citizens. 1440p is a luxury over there still. Guess what they can pick up for $100 US? 1080p monitors. The cards that we're complaining only have 8 gigabytes of memory at $299 US are $450 to $500 US in Brazil, in the Brazilian market, where they can only afford 1080p monitors. If we suddenly raise that price by $50 to $100 US to get them 16 gigabytes of memory, the Brazilian market would riot because NVIDIA and AMD are overcharging for products. They're overshooting the market as it exists.
Well, also the hardware that they probably have too.
And the hardware that can drive it. The CPUs and motherboards and everything else that they're pairing these parts with.
And we're not trying to pick on Brazil.
I'm using them as a really good example because that market exists in Mexico. That market exists in Argentina. Yep. That market exists in South Africa. That market exists in India. That market exists, Australia. That market exists everywhere except the Western, the G7.
Yeah.
Where if you included 16 gigabytes of memory in a $400 card and didn't offer an 8 gigabyte option, no one would buy it in those other markets. Maybe board partners and NVIDIA and AMD and Intel need to start considering not selling those cards in the US market and only marketing them in other markets where they make a little more sense. Because
I think if they did, go ahead.
Because there are performance differences, especially between 8 and 16 gig when you're driving ultra settings or 1440 and higher. There are performance differences.
Yes.
Turn your games to 1440 medium and you get identical results between 8 and 16 gig cards because you're not stressing that frame buffer at all.
There's that too. I think these 8 gig cards though, these are what come in a lot of the base models of pre-built gaming rigs here in America, or in like I said, the G7 or whatever, the Walmarts, the Costcos, the Targets, whatever. And that is also what kids today, the teenagers, are debating whether to buy. And that's going to be what's in these gaming rigs are the 8 gig graphics cards. And they're going to be able to play 1080p, 1440, half performance, but they're going to get a gaming rig, and that's what's going to get them excited. It's not going to break their budget. Right. It's going to be, do I want the new latest Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, Nintendo, or do I want a gaming PC? I literally have nephews that are like, I don't care about consoles. I want a gaming rig, and they're saving up every Christmas to be like, Uncle John, what graphics card can I buy with this price? And then I'll look and I'm like, okay, well, you can pre-build or you can have this, and it works great. And it's usually something in the 50 catalog, of graphics cards, because they're coming up with around $400, and that's the same as a console. And they already have a 1080p monitor at 60 or maybe 120 hertz. And that's exactly what's going to work perfect for them, because they're going to feel like, great, I upgraded from a junky, and I want to say probably 1070 Ti now, because that was their very first hand-me-down from someone. Yeah. And they're like, look, I'm spending $500. I want a 450, 550 or 560, whatever, and I saved up my money. I can't get 12 gigs. What does it actually do? It's like, well, you don't even have the hardware to do it. I don't care. I'm happy. And the games they play, they don't care either.
Yeah.
So your
modern game development is starting to outshoot those markets. Like I said, we were spoiled globally when a GTX 1050 Ti 4 gigabyte card could play any game at ultra settings at 60 FPS. outside of like 5 games. And the 1060 could play it between 60 and 90 FPS. Remember, the 1050 Ti had a $149 street price when it was launched. And that kind of sums up the majority of the late 2010s gaming market. It was plentiful, it was available, and it was cheap. But as we all know, it's a little bit different world today.
Yeah.
And 4K and even 1440 with much higher resolution textures and way more polygons than we're rendering 10 years ago. That is very much the norm now. And the more you demand out of your rendering, raster, and ray tracing performance, the less lower end hardware holds up to those demands. It was a much more level playing field 10 years ago.
Well, you know, it comes back to also, what are the major gaming titles that not us, but younger people are playing?
Mm-hmm.
And it is coming back to the Fortnite, the Marvel Rivals, even like your kids are doing so Minecraft still, and what's that? Roblox. Like that, you don't even need a graphics card for that stuff.
Integrated does just fine.
Yeah, exactly. And so you don't need 16 gigs, but you want a little bit better. I mean, Rivals, I think 1060 is the minimal requirement, you know, so.
I will still say, I stand by this statement, there are 5 games in which 8 gigs is not enough at 1080 Ultra.
Exactly.
There are 5 games in which it's not enough. There are performance differences between a dozen to 18 games between the 8 and the 16 gig card, because you start running out of bandwidth and bus width and things like that. And there are other factors that come into play at 1080p on ultra settings. Switch it to medium and there's no difference at all. And so what are your expectations as a gamer?
Yeah. Are you being a professional level gamer, or are you just doing it for fun? You want it as a hobby. You want it just in the background. You're like, oh, I want to be able to play these games, but I don't want to break my bank. You know, what if even if you're an older, let's not even use kids. What if you're a dad and you're like, I used to game. I want something decent that I know is probably going to last a couple years. I'm going to go drop $700 on a whole rig. Yeah, you're probably going to get a 60 series of some kind. And it's probably going to be an 8 gig. Maybe if you want to drop another $150, you might get bigger. But you don't need it because you're not professionally gaming at that level. You're just casually gaming and enjoying yourself. And you will probably just be like medium settings at best, 120 hertz. And that's probably all you're going to need.
Yep.
So I don't have a problem with the 8 gigs.
Do you want to know what my primary video card is? I mention this, it seems like every week. My primary gaming rig is a Ryzen 3600 and an RTX 4060.
Yeah.
I have whatever hardware I want to use. I have a 5090 that it's behind me, but it's there. I have a 5090. I have a 5080 in the desktop over there. I've got 2 5070s on the couch in front of me. I've got an extra 5080 on the couch. It's sitting on the couch. It's not installed in anything. It's sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
You know what I game with? A 4060.
Yeah.
Because it's low wattage and doesn't make noise. And it doesn't heat up my living room.
Yeah. No, I got a 3060, but I got the 12 gig one, but still, you don't need a whole lot. And I'm the casual gamer. Like, oh, I'll hop on, and every now and then someone on the Discord, John's playing Steam. It's like, I just wanted to play for a couple minutes.
And as Cheese points out, I also have his 9070 XT. I do still have that. I can't promise tomorrow, but Friday I will ship it back to you.
I got lost. Oh no.
Please keep bugging me about it, because I am the type that will forget on a daily basis. So, but Friday, I will ship it back to you. Ping me at like 8 in the morning on Friday, and I will make sure it gets shipped out on Friday.
But you know, there's speaking of video games and everything that everyone's gaming, and one of the big things that we've loved is the portable gaming system, and we've always loved, I think between the two of us, really loved our switches.
Yes.
Really enjoyed our switches. We thought it was a really cool innovation, all around great bang for its buck. And the Switch 2 just recently came out. And there's, I don't know, something interesting going on with the Switch 2 and the modding community, and possibly even the regular Switch.
Yeah.
And Nintendo is cracking down.
Yes. So I wish I'd brought it downstairs. I have one of these. I have a MIG. I have a MIG cart.
I do too.
Yeah, I bought one. I didn't get the cart reader that I needed to actually back up my games, but I have the cart that I can't use because I can't copy my signatures to it, and so it's useless to me. But I have it. Yeah.
I know.
Anyway, yeah. Obviously, within 6 months of the original Switch coming out, the modding community had figured out that there was, I won't even call it an exploit, but a feature on NVIDIA Tegra K1, which is what the original Switch is based off of, that is a hard-programmed reset switch, a pre-boot reset switch that will bypass EEPROM and allow you to run any code you want. Yep. And it so happens that the 2 pins that you need to bridge are the 2 pins that connect to the right Joy-Con. And so you can buy a little thing like this. Oh God, where did that come from? You can buy a little
that was
jig.
Just a piece of plastic.
Little piece of plastic, or bend a
I've seen paper clips, yeah.
Bend a paper clip, bridge those 2 pins together, and flash custom firmware to it. And it was unpatchable because it's a feature of the hardware. It is literally the boot section of the hardware to allow the Tegra K1 to turn on has this feature embedded in it. They did correct this with the Switch OLED and the Switch Lite. However, there are methods of making that work through mod chips. But it's safe to say that the modding community got their hooks into the Switch 1, and Nintendo did not want that to continue.
They did not. They were not happy with it.
So, enter the Switch 2. Now, the Switch 1 got an interesting cartridge called the MIG cart. And what it allowed you to do was spoof a physical Nintendo cartridge, Switch 1 cartridge game, basically make backups of your games to that cartridge, along with the necessary signature and encryption files, and run that as an original cartridge. And you could store multiple cartridges on the MIG cart, and the way you swapped between them was by inserting the MIG cart into the Switch and going, oh look, Tears of the Kingdom loaded up, and then ejecting it, and then inserting it back in,
and
the bootloader on the Switch cart would go, oh, you want to play Breath of the Wild? Oh, you want to play Mario Odyssey? Oh, you want to play Mario Wonder? Oh, you want to play New Super Mario Brothers Wii? You want to do this? You want to do that? And they figured out how to run emulate a Switch cartridge to the point at which the original Nintendo Switch could not detect it. When the Switch 2 came out, the MIG cartridge didn't work. It would see the game, but it wouldn't load the game. Well, after the 0.1 update, the day 5 update to the Switch, the MIG cartridge started working again to the Switch 2. And so if you had backup copies of your games on the MIG cartridge, which, by the way, the MIG cartridge really doesn't enable piracy. It's nearly impossible to pirate with it.
Yeah, it's backing up your games.
Yeah.
onto an SD card. You pop the SD card into the cartridge,
Yep.
and that's how it works. And so it's very similar to the concept of idea of I have a Plex server. Oh, I ripped all of my DVDs that I purchased, and it's on my server. So I own all of these movies. I own all of these games, but I just put it on there. That way I don't have to have this large case with all of these individual slotted games. I just put this one and inject it, reject it, and I switch between the two. And it's fine.
Yeah. Which, for those of us who like having physical copies of our games, physical media that you can back up, that you can preserve, the MIG cartridge seemed like a win, because now I can have all of my physical cartridges, back them up, use this one cartridge to travel with me, where I'm not worried about losing, a random $70 Zelda cartridge in an airport somewhere, and play my games on the go. However, Nintendo knows how to detect the MIG cartridge, and they have started banning Switch 2s from online interfaces. The problem with the Switch 2 and banning online connectivity goes deeper than, well, I can't play multiplayer games, but I can at least still play the games that I bought, right? No. Because the Switch 2 is now an always online device. The Switch 2 requires licenses to be double checked every time you launch a game now, which means banning a system from online activity essentially bricks the system now. So if you use a MIG cartridge in your Switch 2 and you go online with that, your Switch 2 will become a brick.
Yep. And they're also working on this now for even the original Switch 2 as well.
Yes.
And that's even more worrisome. Nintendo is this, to me, the fact that they're going after both systems that means they are serious. It's one thing to go after the brand new flagship system because they're like, okay, and then they're cutting their losses on the old one because, like, look, it's end of life, it's fine, we don't care. Honestly, to me, that kind of gave a sign of they're probably still going to be releasing titles for the Switch, or it'll be both compatible, like they're going to release dual versions of particular games. I don't know, because I don't know why they would continue working on the original Switch unless, I don't know, maybe they're hoping the OLED or something is great. But this is just showing that, to me, that they are just going hard on the whole concept of pirating off of the original Switch, or they got really kind of butthurt on the idea that the Switch got hacked so easily, so fast, the original one, that they made this a big deal. But and when we talked about the launch of the Switch 2, or when I had that commercial, that was, I think, the only negative side that we thought, that essentially every physical game you buy now is not a physical game.
It is a license key.
It's a license key. And you have to then download the game to play it at the very first time. And then, so you don't get that whole, I pop in the game, I get the start. No, it's pop in the game, hook it up to your network, and download it. And for AAA titles, and if you've got a good internet connection, 30 minutes. But if you got a bad one, you're looking at hours. And it was like, that part, that's not cool. I don't like that. That's horrible. And also selling your game or letting your friend borrow it or something along that line. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what, I wonder if that would brick it or something, or I just hope they're doing it properly. But
I don't know. I will say we got 2 back-to-back comments, and I like both of them. Brandon chimes in. I'm just going to say Nintendo is totally right to be anti-consumer because they are very open about these practices and people still keep buying their stuff to play their games. It's on the gamers. Followed immediately by Canna, who says, games should have always been allowed to be backed up. You bought the license, so it should be yours. Those are two excellent schools of thought. And the legality agrees with both of you. But legality also is against both of you. And this is a really interesting subject. So we have Nintendo selling you hardware, selling you a physical product, a physical computer that runs only proprietary Nintendo software and authentication methods and requires online check-in. And they are very open about that feature. However, Nintendo is also a fully walled garden. Nintendo controls anything that can or will be run on their hardware, which is hardware that you own, which you should be able to run whatever software you want, right? Right? Like, under the guise of ownership, I should be able to run whatever software I want on the hardware that I own, right? The FCC... Is it FCC? Yeah, FCC. Fully allows you to back up software that you purchase. But you're not technically allowed to run software that you've backed up. You're allowed to keep a backup of it. But you're not allowed to run it. That's part of the DMCA. Running backup copies as a primary copy in lieu of the original copy is technically not allowed. However, running a backup on hardware that you own for a license that you do have rights to is kind of technically allowed as well. We have seen provisions for, I bought a license for this software to run on this platform, and the company went out of business before I could download an update, so I downloaded an update and pirated it. But I already had a license to run that, so I'm allowed to run that pirated version. I'm allowed to bypass hardware encryption keys long after the software should have expired because I technically have a lifetime license to this. And if my hardware encryption key dies, I still have a right to run it even though I can't get a replacement hardware encryption key. Like, these are all exceptions in the DMCA. And so this whole conversation brings up a really interesting conundrum of consumer rights versus corporation rights when it comes to running software on proprietary hardware. And I don't know if there's a good answer.
It's going to go to the way of the Windows XP CDs, Jeff. That's what it's going to be. We're going to have little discs, little cartridges with just tons of
Can I just remember keys. A 25-digit code and start running Mario Odyssey? Like, that'd be amazing.
Yes. That's what it's going to be. We're going to be able to share the codes, and because Nintendo probably just like, no one would do that. And because everyone that probably developed the Switch 2 is probably never alive during Windows XP. So they didn't think of that.
Yeah.
But that would be hilarious. No, this is, I don't know. I don't like this. This is.
And I will say.
My hardware.
Trust me, I am not in a defense of Nintendo, and I am fully in the consumers' rights advocacy group when it comes to this. However, there are pretty well-established legal rights of a corporation when it comes to software licensing. You purchase a license from a company that can be revoked at any time for breaking the terms of use. Now, the terms of use are subject to legal dispute of whether or not the terms are actually legally binding or not. But if you agree to the terms of service, terms of use of a software package, and you have a license to run that software, and let's just say the Nintendo operating system software, the Nintendo firmware for the Nintendo Switch, that's a software package. If you violate the terms of that agreement, I don't think Nintendo needs to let you run that software package anymore. Even though you can't run any other software on that hardware. You can legally run whatever software you want. But if Nintendo rescinds your license to run their firmware on that hardware, you really have nowhere to turn to. And so there is a legal precedent and a legal standard for Nintendo going, no, you just can't run our firmware anymore. And it's hard to argue against that.
Yeah, it does seem, well, I guess with the Switch and the Switch 2, I guess, because I haven't really, if you are buying the hardware, and let's go with the Switch 2, if the chip, whatever, the cartridge is the actual game, then,
yeah,
if it is for some games, probably, then I should own that. I should own that. I should own that license for that piece of software, because
game on
that copy of
media.
That game,
yeah,
and it is my physical computer, my physical Switch. I should be able to do anything. And if they're then saying, if you don't allow this to periodically check online, we will brick your hardware.
Mm-hmm.
That I think is wrong. Now, if the game is just a key and you're constantly having to download stuff or do things, then I think that falls into what you were saying. It's a firmware, it's a software issue.
Right.
It's a then it's very similar to say like Adobe Cloud, all the Adobe features and everything like that. Now it's a software thing. You're just buying the key to use everything online.
Right.
Versus the individual one. I still think the fact that they're trying to brick, even how the article reference was the Switch 1, that is clearly all hardware. And that everything, we know that is all physical hardware. Yeah. And everyone does own it. And when they say, we're going to brick you out of it, it should just be, honestly, I think Switch could probably, or Nintendo could probably easily say, we're just going to ban you from any more updates. We've detected you're doing something, you just don't get any more updates. Because you've obviously, I guess it'd probably be similar to Apple's tampering with their hardware, saying, oh, you voided our warranty.
Yeah.
So you physically tampered with this hardware, and so you get it as is now. And so anything that happens is upon you.
I will say it's a very similar situation with Apple with Mac OS. Especially now that Apple makes their own silicon. Apple doesn't brick your hardware though because you pirated Adobe. Or good because point. You download, but I think legally they could, because they could say you're no longer allowed under our license agreement to continue the license agreement to run Mac OS. And Mac OS, Apple hardware, have locked bootloaders.
Good, yeah. Again,
so I'm not trying to give Apple ideas here.
No,
I'm simply coming this from like a legality standpoint. Apple doesn't have to let you run their software if you stray from the terms and conditions.
So hang on, but then with that, wouldn't you have to agree to any terms and conditions? I'm not very familiar with booting up an Apple. So, but if you bought a brand new Apple computer, say from Best Buy,
yes,
is there a terms and conditions you have to agree to before signing in?
Yes.
Okay.
There is a first boot process that presents you with terms and conditions.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Yeah. For running the Mac OS software. There's also a terms and conditions that pops up when you launch the App Store for the first time, and then you get any App Store terms and conditions updates and any Mac OS terms and conditions updates every time you update those in particular applications.
And if no one ever watched South Park Sentai Pad, then you better read those.
Right. So Apple doesn't brick you from their hardware. Although, again, they might be legally allowed to. If they said, we are rescinding your right to run Mac OS on this hardware because we've detected changes that are against the license agreement. Now, whether or not the legality of that license agreement is in play would have to go through a court first.
But okay, are they then going to say you legally have to allow this PC to periodically connect to the internet, and if you don't, after Sony, we will brick you? Because that's what the Switch is doing, is saying, hey, you have to always be online or be able to periodically be online.
I think the Switch is banning online connectivity if it detects the presence of a MIG cart, which is a little bit different. It's not saying if you don't check in every so often, we're going to ban you. It's if you check in with this particular modification or unlicensed hardware attached to it, which is also running unlicensed software or transitional licensed software, then you are now in violations of our terms of service, and we are going to forbid you from using Nintendo Online, connecting your hardware to our online service. You can still run the Switch OS locally. We're not going to rescind that, but you need to connect to online to make sure you have a license agreement that is current for any Nintendo validated software that you want to run, which is all of it. So we've essentially bricked you. And so it is this weird rigmarole of if then, also then.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that it is a legal way of getting around, or a non-legal way of getting around, of saying you have to be on. You don't have to be online, but you kind of do have to be online enough.
And I'm not saying I agree with it, but what I'm saying is the legal standard is they're kind of right.
So wait a second, though. Is it? I mean, I guess it would have to be, if it's not within the terms of services, but then it's just an understanding that this is how the hardware works. Could someone then state that, like, why do I have to be online periodically to validate my game's key when I already did it one time, and then therefore I then backed it up to my MIG?
Technically,
so therefore I do.
Technically, if you agree to the license conditions, download your software, disconnect from the internet, you can run the Switch as is indefinitely. You can run it in that state indefinitely.
Because I think the Switch 2, it will periodically be like, we need to check the
the Switch 1 doesn't.
But no, the Switch 1 doesn't.
Right.
I get you'd probably be right if you never got a new game. But if you got a new game
is a new license agreement, which needs a
new license, which is a new check-in. And within that, I'm betting they're like, hey, let's
re-up everything while we're at it.
Exactly. So then what might come about, say, in theory, with that, the first gen of hacks or hacked or whatever Switch 2s might be a 1 terabyte preloaded. Here's everything from 2025 to 2027, but you can't do anything other than that.
Right.
That might be Gen 1 of pre-hacked and all of Switch 1 games.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember what the capacity of the SD card is, but a express card, even then they're only like 500 gigs and they're like $100. So that's not going to hold a lot of games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But at the same time, the community around this type of stuff, especially the original Switch, is huge, and people will pay buco bucks to figure this out and work around it. As much as Nintendo wants to fight it, there's probably a community out there that is theoretically just as big and powerful. And I give them a year or 2 years, and there's going to be a solution around what is currently there. And then you give it 5 years,
yeah,
and it'll just be a driver.
Yep.
You know, if you have Gen 1 Switch 2s, and like, oh, download this driver, boom, easy peasy. You know, that it really was the same way with the Switch. It took about 2 years, and it was easily accessible.
Yep.
Year 1 was, if you miss one step up, you're bricked, you're dead.
Yep.
You know,
I have 2 different Gen 1 Switches, and I have a Switch Lite. I own 3 different Switches. John manned the crowd. Jeff has an errand to run. I need to run upstairs real quick because I have some beer mail I need to open, and I have some people I need to make jealous.
Is it me?
Probably.
I'll tell you what. Pop in the one beer news. I can talk that.
Okay.
And this is a good segue.
Tell you what. Let's intro it real quick so I can flash up. I will then go to a solo U view. I will walk away.
There we go.
And we will go from there.
All right, Voodoo Ranger. Look at this, Malort. Voodoo Ranger and Malort. Who, if you are part of the Discord, you would have seen this because I posted it earlier. But I honestly would have not pictured this. But this came
is out of left field for me.
This was a weird one for me too. And I was actually surprised because I do have a contact at New Belgium Voodoo Ranger, and they didn't send this to me. I got the if anyone subs to my channel, which you should, but I know I'm a little behind on a lot of content. Sorry. I've been busy. Sorry. But anyways, I do have a contact at New Belgium, and especially for the Voodoo Ranger lineup. And I got the Tombstone Pizza one, and I didn't get a package for this. I don't know why, but it's Voodoo Ranger and Malort, a Chicago-based distillery. If you don't know what Malort is, it is a wormwood liquor, and you're probably thinking to yourself, what is that? Yeah, that's kind of my thought too, actually. But it's a very, very bitter liquor. It has this distinct, interesting taste. I couldn't even describe it. It's just bitter. It's not sweet. It's not good. But anyways, Voodoo Ranger came out with this weird aspect because Voodoo Ranger is currently known for more of their juicy style, the Juice Forces actually that are coming out now. Now this isn't that, but they are kind of the rebels of the mass marketing IPAs. And what they did is came out with, it's called the Roulette IPA, and it's kind of a funny package. The only way to get this beer is from their website, and it comes in a 6-pack, but you actually only get 2 beers of the official Marlot and the Voodoo Ranger, which I don't know what the IPA actually is, but it comes in a roulette wheel. And that's why it's called roulette. And the whole idea is to go take out your friends and you spin the wheel, and then whoever it lands on, you drink it. It's kind of an interesting aspect. I haven't seen any reviews on this yet. Like I said, they just announced it. It was, I believe, on the 16th. It was announced officially. Yeah, this is an interesting. So what would you guys even buy this? I don't know. This is there's not actually, you know what? Let's go take a look. Can we see? I'm gonna go see if I can find some stats on this tab. Anyone else have a second drink they've had tonight? Put it in the chat. Also, Malort. Anyone ever have some Malort? Tried it. Then we got Novella Hubs open up. Whistled's Coffee Stout age 12.7%. Nice. But yeah, anyone have any Malort? Drink it, try it. So what is it called? Voodoo Ranger Roulette. It's not even on Untapped. There it is. There it is. So the first impressions, 2 people have tried it. Making something this self-mutilating is impressive. 5 stars. This is absolutely disgusting, and I love it. 7.5%. This limited edition IPA brewed to capture the signature bitter wormwood flavor of Malort. It'll leave your taste buds begging for mercy. I so want to try it. It gets the worst descriptions, and yet it has 5 stars. Anyways, that's the beer news for today. Again, I want to know if anyone had some Malort. All right, so wait, actually, we got Novella. My wife nurses party every year. Has some to try for the brave. I would love to try it. I don't think I think I have had some, but I was very, very young, and I don't remember it, and I was probably not interested. Ooh, coffee is having some Hop and Frog Black Friday barley wine.
Oh,
very nice. Is that one of those small cans, or is
yeah,
that
that's going to be one of the
ones?
8-ounces.
Yeah, I was talking to Steve about that. I was like, those are impressive. In fact, Voodoo Ranger, I said, I don't know why they are releasing their Juice series or their Juice Force series in 8-ounce 6-packs.
Really?
But it's still $10. So it's like, why would you do that when a 6-pack
Voodoo Ranger
of the 12
Juice Force
ounces,
I can get in a 19-ounce can for $2.20.
Exactly. Why would I buy a 6-pack of 8 ounces for $9.90 whatever plus the 10 cents, the 60 cents I have to pay on deposit?
Yeah,
that just doesn't make sense. So I thought that was stupid. But yeah. Malort Wormwood IPA.
All right.
What'd you get?
So first off, we've been thinking some evil thoughts on the Craft Computing Discord. And so, even though I've got a little bit of a bent PCIe bracket here, I think the card overall survived. I have a GTX 980 Ti classified from Skull. Thank you, Skull.
I was like, that's not a beer.
Thank you very much, Skull. This is going to go into I have a new in-box EVGA X99 classified motherboard along with a 5960X processor. We're gonna game like it's 2016 all over again. I'm gonna rebuild a 9-year-old gaming PC, but like as brand new as possible. So that'll be fun. But the reason I started gushing a little bit was because Skull also included. There it is. One of these.
Oh, what that 2000 was? That's not new, is it? I don't think they did new. 2 of them. That's one for me, one for you.
No.
22.
Sorry, 2024.
Oh, God, what? Oh, okay, that got me jealous.
Yeah,
that's my favorite Goose Island.
Yep. Barley wine aged in bourbon barrels with tamarind, lime,
proprietary,
piloncillo, and gualia chili.
Yeah.
John, I have a crap ton of PC parts in my garage with your name on them.
All right, yeah.
And have had for quite some time. I've also got a couple of beers that we need to open.
I have a beer. I have a Elijah Craig 14-year we need to open up. Barrel-aged beer. No, I think it's 16-year. One of the, anyways, yeah, it was like $120 for the bottle.
That's going to be a fun day.
That'll be a long day. It'll be, let's not have it be like last time to where we had so much. We're like, let's just not finish this.
Do you realize the lineup we have in front of us? John and I tried to film a video in 2019. It's been almost 6 years now.
Yeah.
We tried to film a video in 2019 where I gifted John a bunch of hardware and I upgraded his existing PC because he was getting into the YouTube thing and starting to start his channel and needed a video editing rig and whatnot. And so I actually bought him a bunch of hardware, and then I also had a company donate a bunch of hardware to the cause. And then one night after a Talking Heads, that was mistake number one. In-person Talking Heads, because this was also 2019 before the dark times. We tried to film a video.
We did. No. We filmed, like, I think we did Talking Heads, and I thought we did like one of my videos.
Right. Yeah, we did Talking Heads. We did 2 hours of Talking Heads. We then filmed a beer review for John's channel.
Yeah.
We then, still on a Wednesday night. And by the way, our show used to start at 8 p.m., not 6 p.m. 6 p.m. was a much more recent change. So we would get off the air at 10. We filmed a video for John. We finished the video for John at 11. We then tried to film another video for my channel 3-ish beers in of building John a gaming PC. Because
I think I released my video and it was, you could tell we were like, this is great.
Gone. Yeah. So anyway, John, we need to schedule a weekend. And I say a weekend because I don't think one day is going to do it, because...
Probably not.
Because we got to do a couple for you and a couple for me.
Let's see. Man, some of these videos are old.
All right, I butchered some of the words. I'm sorry. It's late. I'm dealing with reflections on the label. Butchered those names for the chilies. Barley wine ale, aged in bourbon barrels with tamarind lime, piloncillo, whatever that word is.
Well, yeah, I think we got it.
Yeah.
There it is. It was the Firestone.
Chilies.
It was the Firestone Walker Old Manhattan. Remember that one?
I do.
Yes, that was the video. So if you guys want to see it, I'm going to post it in the Discord. And again, that's why you got to join, because if you want to see these sweet things without having to dig through both of our channels, you got to join that Discord.
Right. You know what? I'll go and put that in the chat here.
All right.
Because I can post links. There we go. God, I need to rewatch that video. I forgot about that one. There's a reason the video we filmed after this didn't make it to air.
Yes. Well, okay. If you haven't watched it, no one wants to click it. But basically, Jeff came over. It was like a day or two before. Mm-hmm. And I got these Firestone Walker Old Manhattan inspired cocktail beers. Mm-hmm. And I opened it with you, me, and Steve. And we all agreed, man, this tastes like a Manhattan. It needs a review. And I said, good thing I got 2 of them.
Yeah.
And it was that Wednesday I was on the show with you. We were going to build. and I brought one to review, and we were going to review it against an actual Manhattan that you made.
Right.
And so in this video, we have a cocktail and a cocktail beer inspired beer. So, and this is all after we just shot Talking Heads.
Yeah.
And then we shot another video where we reviewed a beer while we were building my PC.
Yeah. That video didn't make it.
No, that one did not make it.
Yeah. Those are great times. I've actually been thinking about like shaving the sides back again and just going with the goatee like I used to have.
Yeah.
Because I've had the full, like, I've gone back and forth with like the full beard, like before COVID times, but then like after COVID times, it's like, no, screw it. I'm full scruff. Like
going full scruff.
Yeah.
You didn't even have a dolly or a dolly at that time, because all of these cocktail shots that oh, there it is. Okay, we do. We do. Okay.
I got a dolly. I got a dolly rig early 2019 and had that rig for about a year. It was janky AF. I absolutely hated that thing. It was one of the worst things I've ever bought. It was like $900 and it couldn't do a repeatable shot. And it was jerky as all hell. I've since in 2020, right after I moved into this house, I bought a Rhino dolly, a 3-axis slider dolly, and that has been awesome. It's a Rhino 2, and love that thing.
This is when I was showing bloopers at the end of the review.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is bad. That's funny, but yes, no, we definitely got to do a PC build, but maybe take it a little bit slower this time.
Yeah,
a little more methodic.
Yeah, I've got literally 100% new parts for you here.
Yeah.
I just need an excuse to put them together.
I think you actually have a bigger liquor cabinet back then than you do now.
I did back then, actually, yeah. That was one of the problems back then, is Steve and I lived within walking distance of each other.
Yes, oh yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, you well, Steve would come by on the after show or afterwards and just be like, "Oh, we're all here."
Every single after show, Steve would just walk by and go, "Hey, what new whiskey did you get?" And so what should have been a Wednesday 8 to 10 show ended up being like 1 a.m. drinking whiskey with Steve in the middle of the street.
I remember that. Well, it's 8:30.
Yes.
I think we hit it. Oh wait, did you have any more you needed to unbox?
No, it was literally just those two. It was okay. Skull sent over the 980 Ti classified, because I shared with him about a month ago or so that I had a brand new inbox EVGA X99 classified motherboard and a 5960X CPU, and I wanted to build like the ultimate 10-year retro rig. And he goes, well, I've got an EVGA 980 Ti classified that'll match your freak. And I went, I'm on board. Send it over. Let's put it together. And so I've been slowly piecing together some parts. I think I'm going to build this in like a modern system with a modern cooler. But have it be like that moment in time of that rig. and I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, sounds like fun. Yeah, I know when you get to some of those, I want retro parts and everything like that. Then it becomes kind of more like, all right, it's more expensive, and there are times for that retro aspect, and that's fun to have. I totally get it. I really do love the whole turbo button 90s nostalgia.
But the thing is, from like 2016, can you remember a case from 2016 that you still want to run today? Probably not.
No,
like that was a transitionary period in which I think we started to hit modern case standards of really, really good quality and rigidity. Like people actually started caring about it starting in the mid 2010s, and we weren't just getting like these steel stamped boxes with, you know, cut rate acrylic thrown on the side. Like 2017 we were still getting acrylic, but as of 2019 we were getting full tempered glass as standard on every build, which fully added to the rigidity of every case.
I was gonna say, if you wanted it, just make sure it's all plastic, and then, you know, it looks like art, modern, but it's all plastic, and that's pretty much what 2016 was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and a half a window, because they never did the full window. It was like a slice, you know, down the side, or an arch. Yeah, because it was always to cover up wire management, cable management.
What's really funny is my case in 2016 was a fractal define. Was it Define 2 or Define? Define S? I don't remember. It was one of the Define series, but it was meant for water cooling, but it was still an acrylic side panel. It was a metal sheet with an acrylic panel bolted in. And I got ahead of the RGB craze, and I put my own RGB strips into there and powered them off the power supply with an RGB controller and an infrared remote. And so I had like color changing RGB years before anyone else did, because that really hit in 2019 is when RGB really started becoming the thing. I had that in 2016. I saw the trend before it developed. I should have been a millionaire. But I still have in my garage a Fractal Design Define S2, I believe, which is the very next version of the Define case that came with tempered glass. That might be a fun build. That might be the case to put this thing in.
Yeah, everything I'm looking at, I was like, oh, I do kind of remember these cases, very square blocky.
Yeah.
But small windows.
Yep.
But they were plastic. A lot of front grills. Like plastic grills that were not actual air vents, but they wanted to make it look like it was air vents.
Yeah. Cooler Master Cosmos, Half 922, Obsidian 800D. Yeah, oh, those are all classics. But all suffered from the exact same problems I'm talking about.
Yeah, I see a lot of Cooler Master stuff.
Yeah.
It's so funny to actually, it's just so weird to see the cases now. It is. I mean, even now, I'm like, oh, it's you can date these cases if you lived through it.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest part. Yeah.
So, anyway,
all right,
that was fun. That was so much fun. That was some good beer. How was your second beer, by the way?
I liked it. I liked it a lot better than my red. Both of them had a bit more roasty note.
Oh, interesting.
Than what I'm used to. The red, honestly, I still like Ninkasi's. And they even released a double red, which is just a regular red ale, but they doubled it, and it's like 6%. That's fantastic. It's not your traditional Northwest IPA. That was better than this. And but I do appreciate people trying red ales. This wasn't a Pacific Northwest brewery, so it's fine. The Scotch ale, I enjoyed it, but still more of I think the malt choice they had was probably too roasty of a malt versus a sweeter one. still enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the not being hoppy is I guess what I'm trying to get at. You know, the absence of hop and getting away from just a bunch of IPAs, because I've been buying the Ninkasi Imperial packs recently as my go-to beers, and those are just, you know, megalodons and all of the dinosaur packs, and it's like, man, those things are just hot bombs,
right?
Northwest hot bombs. And it's like, okay, I kind of enjoy a bit more of the malt forward, even if I didn't like 100% care for it. It's like my palate and my stomach and everything is like, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. I will say, if you get a chance to get one of the Voodoo Ranger Malorts, I want to try that.
Okay.
So
yeah, no, I had like I don't, you'd heard, but yeah, my contact didn't. I got the stone pizza, or the pizza Firestone pizza one, but they didn't send me this one, and I don't know why, but they liked all the reviews. So, but it might be because that one came in a 6-pack versus a single can.
Yeah.
And they might have been a bit more selective of who they sent those out to.
Yeah.
So, Tombstone. That's what I meant to say. Tombstone.
Okay. Gotcha.
Tombstone pizza. Yeah, I got the Tombstone pizza one.
Nice.
So maybe I'll hit my
boy. There's some ads from the past. What do you want on your tombstone?
Yeah. All right.
Anyway. This has been episode 387 of Talking Heads. Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time for the latest in beer and tech news right here on YouTube. Subscribe to Craft Computing if you haven't done so already. Leave me a comment down below. What do you think of Nintendo and the whole consumer rights thing? Because it's quite complicated, and while I don't necessarily agree with the stance Nintendo is taking, I fully understand the legality of what the current system allows for, and the current system allows them to not let you run Nintendo software if they don't agree how you're using it, which effectively bricks your system. I don't like it, but sometimes we have to talk about things we don't like. Where do you all stand on that? John, anything coming up your channel? Anything you wanna talk about?
No, I've personally just been, this whole year I've been busy. I have even a beer I review. It's already been edited. Just haven't even been able to post it, and it's been slow on my side. That's just my own personal self, and things just get busy. You know that.
I know.
Yeah, we talked about stuff already before. So, but yeah, but it's coming up. Well, I still have videos. I still crank them out. I try for once a week, but unfortunately, it's looking like that's cutting back. But no, you can always hit me up on the Discord. Tag me. I always talk to you. I'm always drinking a beer. Usually, I post that on there. And you can check out all my other stuff, social media stuff, or memes, or little shorts I do here and there. That, well, everything is Hops and Brews. So check those out.
Sorry, I got to share this one. Novella just commented for this guy. Yeah.
Those are delicious.
Yeah. Lagunitas willetized. 12.7% coffee stouts.
Rye oaked barrel aged, that one.
Yes.
So those come in regular packs, and you can get those in 4-packs. Again, back to what we were talking about of introducing to aging a beer. That is a perfectly great beer to age.
Yes. Yeah. Throw that one in your fridge for 6 months and a year and 2 years, and try them in succession, and make notes while you're trying them. You will learn why aging beer is such a popular pastime.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you thank you all so much for watching. And as always, we'll see you right here back at the same time, 6 p.m. Pacific time, next Wednesday. Cheers, everyone.
See you guys.